chosen one, have you felt your heart racing with a hunger you cannot name, a stirring in your body that will not let you rest? Why does your flesh tremble at 3 a.m. when the world sleeps, yet your spirit burns wide awake? Here's the shocking truth they don't want you to know. Your body isn't breaking down, it's breaking through to something divine. Listen to me carefully. That restlessness coursing through your veins, that inexplicable ache that no prescription can touch, that deep knowing that something monumental is stirring within you, that's not anxiety, that's not age, that's the temple of the Holy Spirit demanding what it was created for. In 1 Corinthians 6:19-20, Paul declares with prophetic fire, "Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own, you were bought at a price. Your flesh is not random tissue aging toward dust. It is sacred architecture, and right now, this very moment, it's crying out for the presence it was designed to house." Picture this. You wake at 2:47 a.m., heart pounding like thunder. Your hands tremble as you reach for water. Your body feels electric, alive, summoned by forces you can't explain. The world calls it insomnia. Heaven calls it invitation. Your temple is recognizing that something divine is approaching, and it's preparing to receive what's coming. Before we journey deeper into this revelation that will transform everything, I want to honor every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just giving. You're sowing seeds into holy ground that will bloom into breakthrough for countless souls who feel lost in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your time, your attention, your open heart, it all matters. And if this message is stirring something deep within your spirit, go ahead and let faith guide your response. But here's what will shock you to your core. What your body is demanding isn't rest, it isn't comfort, it isn't the numbing relief the world offers. Your flesh is crying out for the very thing that will make you dangerous to darkness, divine alignment with your Creator's original design. If you know this message is speaking directly to your spirit, type 777 right now. That's not just a comment, that's your spiritual agreement with heaven that you're ready to receive what your body has been demanding. Stay until the end, because what your body is demanding is not what the world thinks it is. It's what heaven already wrote about you before time began. And when you discover what that is, everything changes. Your energy, your purpose, your very DNA responds to divine frequency. The temple is stirring, chosen one. The question is, are you ready for what wants to fill it? Why does your body feel like it's betraying you after 70, 80, 90 years of faithful service? Why do you wake up feeling like a stranger in your own skin? Why does the mirror reflect someone you barely recognize, not just older, but somehow diminished? Dear chosen one, I'm going to tell you something that will shatter every lie you've believed about aging. What if that bone-deep weariness isn't your body giving up? What if that restless ache that keeps you awake at 3 a.m. isn't decay, but your temple crying out for its true purpose? Your flesh is not your enemy, it's your alarm system, and it's been ringing for years. In Psalm 139-14, David declares with awestruck wonder, "I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful, I know that full well." Fearfully with trembling reverence. Wonderfully beyond human comprehension. Your body isn't just a collection of aging parts counting down to death. It's a sacred bell, forged in heaven's workshop, tuned to ring when something is desperately out of alignment. Think about it. When a church bell rings off key, the entire congregation knows something's wrong. The tone is hollow, discordant, haunting. That's your body right now, beloved. It's not broken, it's broadcasting a divine distress signal that you've been misinterpreting for years. You've been to countless doctors, haven't you? Pills for blood pressure, injections for joints, treatments for conditions with names you can't pronounce. But they're treating symptoms while your soul starves. They're medicating the alarm instead of answering the call. Let me paint you a picture of what's really happening inside your mortal frame. Every morning when you struggle to get out of bed, when your energy feels sapped before breakfast, when simple tasks leave you breathless, that's not just age. That's your temple recognizing the disconnect between where you are and where God designed you to thrive. The fatigue that weighs down your bones like lead, that's spiritual dehydration. The loneliness that settles in your chest like fog, that's your soul crying out for divine intimacy. The nagging doubt that whispers, your best days are behind you, that's the enemy's greatest lie, and your body is rejecting it with every aching joint. But here's where it gets revolutionary. Here's where everything you thought you knew about growing older gets turned upside down. Remember Daniel, a man who could have feasted at the king's table, yet chose God's simple provision instead. Daniel 1:15 records the shocking result. At the end of 10 days, they looked healthier and better nourished than any of the young men who ate the royal food. Daniel's body didn't just survive on heaven's diet, it radiated with supernatural vitality that left the entire Babylonian court speechless. What was the difference? Alignment. Divine alignment. Daniel's body was tuned to heaven's frequency, and it showed. His skin glowed, his mind sharpened, his strength multiplied. Not because he was young, but because he was yielded. Not because he avoided aging, but because he embraced his divine design. You see, chosen one, your body remembers Eden. Deep in your cellular memory, your flesh recalls what it felt like to walk in perfect harmony with your Creator. Every ache is a memory of paradise lost. Every pain is a prayer for restoration. Every moment of weakness is your temple begging to be what it was always meant to be. The world has convinced you that decline is inevitable, that weakness is normal, that settling for less is wisdom, but your body knows better. Your flesh is screaming against that lie with every labored breath, every sleepless night, every moment you feel like you're fading away. Here's the climax that will change everything. Your body is not betraying you, it is summoning you back to God's design. Every signal you've interpreted as failure is actually an invitation. Every symptom you've seen as defeat is heaven's way of saying, come back, remember who you are, reclaim what was stolen. Hit the like button if you believe your body is not finished, it is being renewed. Because what I'm about to reveal next will transform how you see every gray hair, every wrinkle, every moment you thought meant you were closer to the end. Your body isn't counting down to death, it's preparing for resurrection. It's not weakening, it's waiting. Waiting for you to remember that you were fearfully and wonderfully made for such a time as this. The temple is stirring, beloved, and what wants to fill it will astound you. But here's what breaks my heart about what I'm witnessing across America today. I see you, dear chosen one. I see you sitting there, maybe in your favorite chair, maybe at your kitchen table where you've shared countless meals with loved ones who are no longer here. I see the way you move a little slower now, the way you pause at the bottom of the stairs, calculating whether that trip upstairs is worth the energy it will cost you. You've been told this is normal. You've been told this is just what happens when you reach your 70s, your 80s. The doctor hands you another prescription and says, well, at your age, your own children pat your shoulder and say, take it easy, Mom. You've earned your rest, Dad. But what if everything they've told you about aging is a lie? What if your body isn't winding down? What if it's being prepared for something supernatural? Listen to me carefully. There's a woman I know in Queens. Let's call her Eleanor. She's 87 years old. 6 months ago, her daughter was planning her funeral. Eleanor could barely walk to her mailbox without gasping for breath. Her hands shook so badly she couldn't hold her coffee cup steady. The doctors said her heart was failing, her blood pressure was through the roof, and frankly, they were amazed she was still breathing. But something changed when Eleanor discovered what her body was truly demanding. Today, this same woman climbs 3 flights of stairs to her apartment without stopping. Her eyes sparkle with energy that makes people half her age ask what supplements she's taking. Her handshake is firm, her voice is strong, and when she walks into a room, people turn their heads not because she's old, but because there's something radiant flowing through her. What happened to Eleanor? Medicine didn't heal her. Surgery didn't restore her. What transformed this dying woman into a living testimony was the same power that's available to you right now. Isaiah 40:31 declares a promise that will shatter every limitation you've accepted about your aging body. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Did you catch that word? Renew. Not maintain, not manage. Renew. The Hebrew word here is halaf. It means to exchange, to substitute, to completely replace with something fresh and new. God isn't offering you a slightly improved version of your current tired body. He's offering you a complete exchange, your weariness for His vitality, your failing strength for His supernatural power. Think about an eagle for a moment. When an eagle begins to age, when its feathers become heavy and its talons dull, it doesn't just accept decline and death. It flies to the highest mountain peak, plucks out every old feather, breaks off its dull beak against the rocks, and tears out its worn talons. For months, it sits in agony, completely vulnerable, waiting for new feathers to grow, a new beak to form, new talons to emerge. And when the process is complete, that same eagle soars for another 30 years with the power and grace of youth. Your body is demanding this same kind of renewal, chosen one, but you've been too afraid of the process. You've been too comfortable with decline. You've accepted that this is just how life ends, slowly, quietly, fading away in a nursing home bed. But what if I told you that every ache in your joints, every moment of breathlessness, every night you lie awake feeling trapped in failing flesh, what if all of that is your body crying out for the molting process? What if your physical discomfort is actually spiritual preparation for a renewal so complete, so supernatural, that people will look at you and wonder what fountain of youth you've discovered? The tragedy is this: most people your age have given up. They've accepted the lie that their bodies are just machines wearing out, that their best days are behind them, that their purpose ended when they retired. But you're different. You're here, listening to this message, because something in your spirit knows there's more. Here's the climactic truth that will revolutionize how you see every gray hair, every wrinkle, every slower step. People will look at you and say, you look younger, lighter, stronger, not because of medicine, but because the Holy Spirit is glowing through you. When God's Spirit begins to flow through your temple, when your body finally receives what it's been demanding, the transformation isn't just spiritual, it's physical, visible, undeniable. Your skin will carry a radiance that no cream can create. Your eyes will sparkle with life that no surgery can restore. Your voice will carry authority that no medication can provide. But this renewal requires more than hope. It requires surrender. It requires you to stop managing your decline and start believing in your divine restoration. If you've ever felt too tired to keep going, if you've ever looked in the mirror and wondered where your vitality went, if you've ever felt like your body was betraying, the dreams still burning in your heart drop, I receive strength in the comments right now. That's not just a comment. That's your declaration of war against everything that's tried to convince you that your best days are over. Because what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly how to activate this supernatural renewal, how to align your failing flesh with heaven's infinite power. But first, you need to understand something that will change everything about how you see your current struggles. Your body has awakened to divine health, chosen one, but that's only the beginning. Can you feel it? That stirring in your spirit that's deeper than physical renewal. Your soul is crying out for something the church rarely speaks about, something that makes religious people uncomfortable but makes God smile. Abundance. Listen to me carefully. How many nights have you lain awake staring at your bank statement, wondering if Social Security will cover the medications? How many times have you calculated and recalculated, trying to stretch that fixed income another week? How many moments have you felt the crushing weight of being financially forgotten while watching everyone else seem to prosper? Here's the shocking truth. Your struggle with money isn't a character flaw. It's not God punishing you for some secret sin. It's not the natural consequence of aging in America. Your financial drought is ending because your body just signaled heaven that you're ready. In Deuteronomy 8:18, Moses declares with thunderous authority, "But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth." Not manage poverty, not survive on scraps, to produce wealth. The Hebrew word for produce here is asa. It means to create, to fashion, to manufacture. God doesn't just give you wealth. He gives you the supernatural ability to create it. But here's what will shake you to your core. The same divine energy that just awakened your physical temple is about to overflow into your financial world like a river bursting its banks. Picture the Mississippi after spring rains, unstoppable, powerful, reshaping everything in its path. That's what's heading toward your bank account. You've been trained to think small, to accept less, to be grateful for crumbs while the wicked feast at banquet tables. But what if I told you that your years of lack weren't punishment, they were preparation? What if every denied loan, every rejected application, every financial setback was God protecting you from settling for pennies when He was preparing dollars? Think about Joseph, 17 years old when he received his dreams of abundance. But did wealth come immediately? Number first came the pit, then slavery, then false accusation, then prison, 13 years of watching his dreams seemingly die while he served other people's visions. But here's what Joseph understood that most people miss. The delay wasn't denial, it was development. Every year in that Egyptian prison was building the character he'd need to manage a national economy. When Pharaoh finally called for him, Joseph didn't just get promoted, he got positioned to save nations. Your financial wilderness is ending because you've been developed for something bigger than your personal comfort. But let me ask you something that might sting. How many times have you prayed for money to pay bills instead of praying for the ability to pay others' bills? How many times have you asked God to help you survive instead of asking Him to help you thrive so massively that your overflow becomes other people's breakthrough? The abundance coming your way isn't for hoarding, it's for flowing. Your prosperity has a prophetic purpose to prove that God still takes care of His faithful ones, to demonstrate that He doesn't discard His servants when the world considers them expired. Here's the hidden key I promised you. Your body demanding divine health was actually your spirit demanding divine authority. And divine authority always comes with divine resources. You can't carry the weight of His calling without the wealth of His provision. Your children think you should be content with enough. Your grandchildren assume your earning days are over. The world has written you off as financially finished. But heaven sees something they can't see. A river of abundance that's been dammed up for decades, building pressure, waiting for the moment when you finally understand that your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification. Moses was 80 when he led 2 million people out of financial slavery. Caleb was 85 when he conquered his inheritance. Abraham was 100 when he received the promise that would make him the father of financial blessing for every nation on earth. Your prosperity is not for selfish gain, it's to bless generations, like Joseph, who fed nations during famine. The enemy wants you to believe that wanting financial abundance at your age is greedy. That's a lie from hell. God doesn't bless you so you can hoard. He blesses you so you can become a blessing. Your overflow is about to become someone else's lifeline. If you believe overflow is coming, declare, "My cup overflows right now." But here's what's going to happen next that will either terrify you or transform you. God isn't just about to change your bank balance, He's about to change your assignment. Because chosen ones don't receive abundance to retire from purpose, they receive abundance to step into purpose with the resources needed to change the world. But now comes the moment that separates the truly chosen from those who merely wish they were. Your body has been awakened. your spirit has been stirred. The divine frequency is coursing through your veins like liquid fire. But here's the sobering truth that will make your soul tremble. Awakening without action is spiritual abortion. Listen to me, dear one. You cannot receive this divine download and then live like nothing happened. You cannot feel the Holy Spirit moving in your temple and then go back to watching television all day, complaining about your aches and pains while the world burns around you. The very fact that your body is demanding this transformation means heaven has tagged you for assignment. In Matthew 5:16, Jesus doesn't make a suggestion. He gives a command. Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Not might shine, not could shine, must shine. The Greek word for let here is a present imperative, ongoing, continuous action. Your light isn't meant to flicker on weekends or during church services. It's meant to burn like a lighthouse, cutting through the darkness 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Think about a lighthouse for a moment. It doesn't choose which ships to guide. It doesn't turn off during storms because the weather gets rough. It doesn't dim its beam because it's tired or because the ships look unworthy. A lighthouse has one job: shine. And in the darkest nights, when the waves are highest and the wind is howling, that's when ships need its light the most. Your neighborhood is drowning in darkness right now. Your family members are ships lost at sea, crashing against rocks of addiction, depression, financial ruin, broken marriages. Your grandchildren are navigating waters thick with confusion about gender, purpose, truth itself. And you, with your decades of walking with God, you with your battle-tested faith, you with your divine awakening, you think you can just sit in your recliner and keep your light to yourself. That's not just selfish, that's spiritual malpractice. But here's where it gets heavy, chosen one. Here's where the weight of calling starts to press down on your shoulders like a mantle of fire. Living righteously at your age isn't about following a list of do's and don'ts. It's about understanding that every day you have left on this earth is borrowed time with eternal implications. How many people will go to hell because you stayed comfortable? How many marriages will crumble because you didn't share the wisdom God gave you through your own broken seasons? How many young people will make devastating choices because you didn't speak up when their parents asked for advice? Think about Esther. Young, beautiful, comfortable in the palace. She could have stayed silent, kept her head down, enjoyed her royal privileges. But in Esther 4:14, Mordecai drops a truth bomb that should shake every chosen one to their core. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. For such a time as this. Not for such a time as that when you were younger, stronger, more confident. For such a time as this, right now, at 65, at 75, at 85, with your wrinkled hands and your slower walk, and your treasure chest of hard-won wisdom, Esther risked everything, her comfort, her safety, her very life. Why? Because she understood that being chosen comes with a price tag. You don't get to keep the blessing without accepting the responsibility. Look at Mother Teresa, 4 feet 11 inches of frail flesh, but she radiated divine strength that moved mountains. She didn't minister to the beautiful, the wealthy, the grateful. She held dying lepers in her arms. She crawled into the gutters of Calcutta to comfort the forgotten. At 69 years old, she was still working 18-hour days in conditions that would break men half her age. When asked how she did it, she said, "I see Jesus in every face. That's righteousness, dear one." That's what happens when your light shines without reservation, without conditions, without excuses. But I hear some of you thinking, "I'm too old, I'm too tired, I've done my time, let someone else carry the torch." Stop, right there. That voice whispering in your ear about retirement from purpose, that's not God. That's the enemy trying to neutralize the very weapon he fears most. A seasoned saint who has nothing left to lose and everything eternal to gain. You think God spent 7, 8, 9 decades preparing you, just so you could coast to the finish line. You think all those years of trials and triumphs, heartbreak and healing, were just random experiences with no greater purpose. Here's the climax that will either shatter your excuses or cement your calling. Chosen one, even at your age, you are not retired, you are refired. The flame burning in your bones isn't the dying ember of yesterday's passion. It's the kindling for tomorrow's revolution. Your wrinkles are your credentials. Your scars are your seminary degree. Your slower pace forces people to lean in and listen when you speak. Your proximity to eternity gives your words weight that youth cannot carry. If you're ready to let your light shine, not as a gentle glow, but as a blazing beacon that guides lost souls home, comment, "I am a lighthouse right now, because the ships are coming, the storm is rising." And in the darkest hour America has ever known, heaven is calling its lighthouses to burn brighter than they ever have before. The question that will determine your legacy is this: will you answer that call, or will you let your light die with you? Listen to me, chosen one. What if everything you've been told about aging is a lie? What if the weakness you feel isn't decline, but your spirit demanding something far greater than survival? Your body has been trying to tell you something for months, maybe years. That restlessness in your bones, that fire that won't die in your chest, that stubborn refusal to just fade away quietly into the background of this world. The doctors call it restless leg syndrome. Your family calls it stubbornness. But I'm here to tell you what heaven calls it: the sound of a warrior's drum. In 1 Corinthians 15:57, Paul thunders with absolute authority, "But thanks be to God, He gives us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ." Victory, not sympathy, not comfortable decline, not a graceful exit from life's stage. Victory. Your body isn't demanding a rocking chair, dear one. It's demanding a battlefield. Think about this for a moment. Why does your heart still race when you hear injustice? Why do your hands still clench into fists when you see evil prospering? Why does something deep in your gut revolt when people tell you to act your age and settle down? Because at 70, at 80, at 90 years old, you are not a museum piece. You are a weapon in God's hands, and your body knows it. The enemy has been lying to you. He's whispered that your time is over, that your strength is gone, that your voice doesn't matter anymore. But here's the shocking truth that will shatter every limitation placed on your life. Your body has been demanding victory all along, and you've been giving it resignation. What your body has been demanding all along, it's this: not comfort, not ease, not a slow surrender to the grave. Your flesh has been crying out for hope when despair floods the news, for peace when chaos reigns in your family, for faith when doubt tries to steal your legacy, for courage when the world tells you to be quiet, for love when hatred seems to be winning. Your body is a warrior's drum, chosen one, and it's been beating the rhythm of battle in your chest. Every sleepless night isn't insomnia, it's reveille. Every ache in your joints isn't arthritis, it's your spiritual armor adjusting for the fight ahead. Every moment you feel out of place in this world isn't confusion, it's recognition that you were never meant to blend in with defeat. Look at Moses, 80 years old when God called him to stand before Pharaoh. His body could have demanded a quiet retirement by the Red Sea. Instead, it demanded the authority to split waters and lead nations. Look at Caleb at 85, declaring, "Give me this mountain." His flesh could have craved a comfortable valley. Instead, it demanded the high ground where giants dwelled. But here's where it gets personal. Here's where this truth cuts through every excuse you've made about your limitations. Your grandchildren are watching you right now. Your neighbors see how you handle adversity. Your community witnesses whether you rise or retreat when life gets hard. They're not looking for another senior citizen counting down days. They're desperate to see someone who carries the DNA of victory in their very bones. Your body is demanding hope in a hopeless generation. Every time you choose faith over fear, your cells respond with divine energy. Every time you speak life instead of death, your immune system strengthens with supernatural power. Every time you declare God's goodness instead of complaining about your circumstances, your entire being aligns with the frequency of heaven. Your body is demanding peace in a world addicted to anxiety. When you refuse to panic about the news, when you choose trust over terror, when you sleep soundly while others toss and turn, that's not ignorance. That's your flesh, cooperating with divine security systems that the world cannot understand. Your body is demanding faith when doubt is the popular religion. Every time you pray instead of worry, every time you believe instead of calculate the odds, every time you step out on God's promises instead of your bank account, your body responds with strength that defies medical explanation. Here's the climax that will explode every lie about your age. Your body is demanding victory, not defeat. You are not finished, you are a conqueror. The same power that raised Christ from the dead is coursing through your veins right now, and it will not be satisfied with anything less than complete and total victory over every force that dares to oppose God's purpose for your life. Stop right where you are. I don't care if you're in your living room, your kitchen, or sitting in your car. Put your hand on your chest and feel that heartbeat. That's not just blood pumping. That's the rhythm of a conqueror. That's the sound of someone who has been through hell and refused to stay there. Wherever you are right now, put your hand on your chest and declare with me, I am more than a conqueror through him who loves me. My body demands victory, and victory is what I shall have. Feel that surge of energy. That's not adrenaline, that's recognition. Your body is saying, finally someone understands what I've been trying to tell you. But this revelation about your true nature leads us to the most dangerous question of all. Your body is demanding this. Can you feel it right now? That low hum beneath your ribs, that electric current running through veins that should be tired, that inexplicable restlessness that visits you in the quiet hours when the world sleeps, but your spirit refuses to surrender to darkness. Your body is demanding this. Let me tell you what's really happening, chosen one. Your flesh has become an ark, yes, an ark like Noah's carrying precious cargo through storms you never asked to weather. Inside this vessel of skin and bone, treasures beyond measure are hidden. Memories of answered prayers, echoes of divine encounters, seeds of purpose that haven't yet sprouted. But the waters are rising. The winds are howling, and your ark is being tossed by tempests that make no earthly sense. Why does your chest tighten at 4 a.m. when you should be at peace? Why do your hands shake when you hold your morning coffee, as if they're reaching for something just beyond your grasp? Why does loneliness sit in your kitchen like an uninvited guest, even when your children call, even when the neighbors wave, even when Sunday service fills the pews around you? Because your body is demanding this. Listen to me carefully, dear one. Those sleepless nights when you stare at the ceiling, counting heartbeats instead of sheep, those aren't accidents. Those moments when you find yourself weeping for reasons you can't name, tears falling like rain on parched ground, those aren't breakdowns. Those trembling episodes when your spirit feels too big for your bones, those aren't anxiety attacks. They're labor pains. In Romans 8:22, Paul reveals a mystery that will shatter your understanding. We know that the whole creation has been groaning as in the pains of childbirth right up to the present time. Your groaning isn't evidence of decay, it's evidence of delivery. Something is being born through you, and birth always comes with pain. Your body is demanding this. Think about Hannah in 1 Samuel chapter 1, barren, broken, mocked by those who couldn't understand her hunger for what seemed impossible. Year after year, she wept before the altar until the priest thought she was drunk. But Hannah's tears weren't weakness, they were prophecy in liquid form. Every sob was heaven's vocabulary. Every desperate prayer was God's promise taking shape in the spiritual realm. And what was the result? Samuel, a prophet who would anoint kings and reshape nations. Hannah's broken body became the birthplace of revival. Your body is demanding this. But here's what will stop your heart. The enemy has been lying to you about your symptoms. He's convinced you that the racing pulse means fear, that the restless nights mean worry, that the inexplicable ache means you're falling apart. But what if I told you these are divine indicators? What if your body is receiving signals from a frequency the natural world cannot detect? Jeremiah 33:3 declares, "Call to me, and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know." Your flesh is being called to dimensions beyond the physical. The trembling isn't weakness, it's your cellular structure responding to heavenly voltage. Think about this. When Moses came down from Mount Sinai, his face shone so brightly that the Israelites couldn't look at him. Exodus 34:30 records their fear. When Aaron and all the Israelites saw Moses, his face was radiant, and they were afraid to come near him. Moses' body wasn't just reflecting light, it was conducting divine electricity. Your body is demanding this same conductivity. Every groan that escapes your lips in the middle of the night, every tear that falls when you think no one is watching, every trembling in your hands when you reach toward heaven, these aren't signs of your humanity failing. These are signs of your divinity awakening. The ache you feel is not weakness, it is heaven writing its script inside you. Why do you think David cried out in Psalm 42:1, "As the deer pants for streams of water, so my soul pants for you, my God"? Because the body knows what the mind sometimes forgets. It recognizes its source. It remembers Eden. It hungers for the very presence that gave it breath. Your restlessness isn't random. Your longing isn't pathetic. Your desperate prayers that feel like they're bouncing off the ceiling aren't unheard. They're the labor pains of a miracle that's been gestating in the secret places of your spirit for longer than you know. But here's the question that will determine everything. Will you keep medicating the symptoms, or will you finally listen to what your body is actually demanding? Because what it's crying out for isn't found in any pharmacy, any retirement plan, or any earthly comfort this world can offer. Your ark has been carrying you through the flood for a reason, and now, right now, the dove is returning with an olive branch, signaling that the waters are receding and new ground is about to appear beneath your feet. You thought the pain would kill you, didn't you? That cancer diagnosis at 72, the funeral you planned for your spouse of 48 years, the call from your daughter saying she doesn't want you in her life anymore, the foreclosure notice on the home you built with your own two hands. You sat in that hospital chair, in that empty house, in that lawyer's office, and whispered the same desperate prayer. God, why are you letting this destroy me? But chosen one, what if I told you that destruction was actually construction? What if every flame that licked at your life wasn't meant to consume you, but to consecrate you? Listen to the thunderous truth echoing from heaven's throne room. You are silver being refined 7 times. Psalm 12:6 declares, "The words of the Lord are flawless, like silver purified in a crucible, like gold refined 7 times. 7 times, beloved, not once, not twice. 7 complete cycles through the fire, until every impurity is burned away and only pure precious metal remains." You've been through that furnace, haven't you? The first fire came when you were young, maybe a broken marriage, maybe financial ruin. You thought that was it. You thought you'd learned your lesson. But then came fire number 2, and 3, and 4, each one hotter than the last. Each one stripping away another layer of what you thought was you, until you stood naked before God, wondering if there was anything left worth saving. Look at Joseph, thrown into a pit by his own brothers, sold like cattle to strangers, falsely accused by his master's wife, forgotten in prison for years. Genesis 39:20 tells us Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. Joseph spent 13 years watching his dreams turn to nightmares, 13 years wondering if God had forgotten his name. But every betrayal was building character, every injustice was installing integrity, every moment of despair was developing the wisdom he'd need to save nations. Your pit wasn't punishment, dear one. It was preparation. Moses understood this mystery when he spent 40 years in the desert, 40 years watching sheep when he was called to lead people. Exodus 3:1 records the moment. Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness. The far side of the wilderness, that's where God does his deepest work. In the places so remote, so isolated, so stripped of everything familiar, that you have no choice but to hear his voice above your own crying. Every sleepless night you've endured, every medication that didn't work, every friend who walked away when you needed them most, it was all classroom curriculum in the University of Fire. You didn't know you were earning a doctorate in divine dependence. You thought you were just surviving. But God was sculpting something magnificent from the marble of your misery. Now hear this with your whole spirit. The furnace didn't burn you, it forged you. That's why you're still here when others who seemed stronger have fallen. That's why your faith still flickers when others have blown out completely. That's why you can sit in a doctor's office and feel peace instead of panic, because you've learned that the one who allowed the fire is the same, one who walks through it with you. Remember Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Daniel 3:25 records King Nebuchadnezzar's astonishment. Look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed, and the 4th looks like a son of the gods. The 4th man in your fire has been Jesus all along. While you thought you were burning alive, he was burning away everything that wasn't supposed to survive into your next season. Every scar on your heart tells a story of divine survival. Every line on your face maps a journey through flames that would have consumed lesser souls. Every gray hair is a trophy of endurance that makes heaven stand and applaud. You are not damaged goods marked down for clearance. You are refined silver stamped with the seal of the Almighty. But here's the revelation that will shatter your victim mentality forever. Your scars are not wounds, they are seals of divine survival. Each one proves that hell threw its worst at you, and you're still standing. Each one declares that the enemy exhausted his arsenal trying to take you out, and you outlasted every weapon formed against you. The abuse you survived as a child, that wasn't just trauma that was training for the broken children you'll mentor later. The depression that nearly drowned you in your 50s, that wasn't just darkness that was diving deep enough to find the treasures hidden in the deep places. The loneliness that crushed your spirit after your spouse died, that wasn't just grief that was learning to find in God what you thought you could only find in human love. You've been asking God why he allowed such pain. Start asking him what he's preparing you to heal. If this fire has forged something unbreakable in your spirit, if you recognize that your scars are actually your credentials, if you're ready to stop surviving and start thriving, type refined by fire right now. Let heaven see your endurance. Let the angels witness your refusal to quit. Let the enemy know that his furnace only made you stronger. But the refinement process isn't over, chosen one. There's one more fire coming, not to destroy what remains, but to ignite what's been dormant. Are you ready to discover what happens when refined silver finally realizes it was meant to shine? Your body is demanding this, chosen one. Not medication, not resignation. Not the slow surrender to invisibility that society expects from you at 70, 80, 90 years old. Your flesh is crying out for something the medical establishment can't prescribe and the world can't understand. Listen to the sound rising from your chest right now. That's not just your heartbeat. That's not just blood pumping through tired veins. That's the sound of a trumpet warming up for the performance of a lifetime. For decades, you've been told that your body is a liability, that every ache means decline, that every slower step means defeat, that every gray hair is evidence that your time of impact has passed. The world looks at your 75-year-old frame and sees a relic. But God looks at that same body and sees a perfectly aged instrument ready to produce sounds that would make angels weep. Your body is demanding this recognition. You are not a museum piece. You are a masterpiece still being painted. Think about the trumpet player in a symphony. The brass sits silent through most movements, waiting, resting, seemingly forgotten while violins dance and flutes flutter. But when the composer calls for that trumpet's voice, when the moment arrives for its golden proclamation, the entire hall transforms. Every other instrument becomes background. Every ear strains to catch that triumphant declaration. Your body is demanding this understanding. You've been resting, not rusting. You've been waiting, not wasting away. In Numbers 10-9, God commands Moses, "When you go into battle in your own land against an enemy who is oppressing you, sound a blast on the trumpets. Then you will be remembered by the Lord your God and rescued from your enemies." The trumpet doesn't whisper. It doesn't apologize for its volume. It blasts with authority that shakes the ground and moves the heart of heaven itself. But here's what's been breaking my heart as I minister to seniors across this nation. You've been whispering when God designed you to blast. You've been apologizing for taking up space when heaven assigned you to fill the room with glory. You've been treating your body like a burden when it's actually your broadcast system for divine frequency. Your body is demanding this revelation. Every tremor in your hands isn't weakness. It's anticipation of lifting something significant. Every slower step isn't failure. It's the measured pace of someone who knows where they're going. Every night you wake at 3 a.m. isn't insomnia. It's your spirit responding to heaven's call for intercessors. For years you thought age made you irrelevant. You believed the lie that your season of influence had passed. You accepted the world's narrative that your best contributions were locked in yesterday's memories. You let society convince you that your value diminished with your hairline and your impact faded with your stamina. But God says, your best song has yet to be played. David understood this when he penned Psalm 92-14. They will still bear fruit in old age. They will stay fresh and green at 80, bearing fruit when the world expects barrenness. This isn't denial of aging. This is declaration of divine timing. Your body isn't counting down to silence. It's tuning up for symphony. Your body is demanding this truth. What you call limitations, God calls launching pads. What you call setbacks, heaven calls setups. What you call endings, the Almighty calls new beginnings, disguised in weathered skin. Moses was 80 when he stood before Pharaoh with a voice that commanded, "Let my people go." Joshua was past retirement age when he led Israel into the Promised Land. Caleb was 85 when he declared, "Give me this mountain." These weren't men defying age. These were men whose bodies had become perfectly calibrated instruments for God's purposes. Your body is demanding this recognition. You're not past your prime. You're in your prophetic prime. But here's where it gets dangerous for the enemy's plans. Here's why hell has been whispering lies about your irrelevance. When a trumpet sounds in the hands of someone who's mastered every note through decades of living, when experience meets anointing, when wisdom flows through vocal cords that have praised through every storm, that sound doesn't just make music, it makes miracles. Your grandchildren don't need another lecture about their choices. They need to hear the trumpet of your testimony, declaring that God is faithful through every generation. Your community doesn't need another complaint about how things used to be better. They need to hear the brass section of your wisdom, proclaiming that God's mercies are new every morning, even at morning number 30,000. Your body is demanding this transformation. Stop groaning about your circumstances and start proclaiming God's faithfulness. Stop whispering about your limitations and start broadcasting your victories. Stop apologizing for your age and start announcing your authority. In Revelation 1:10, John declares, "On the Lord's day I was in the Spirit, and I heard behind me a loud voice like a trumpet." The voice of heaven sounds like a trumpet, not a flute, not a whisper, a trumpet that cuts through confusion, rises above chaos, and calls things into divine order. Your body is no longer groaning, it's proclaiming. Every breath is a declaration that God's plans for you haven't expired. Every heartbeat is a drum roll, announcing that your most significant moment might be your next moment. Every step is a march toward destiny that age cannot cancel and time cannot revoke. Raise your hand wherever you are and declare, "My body is a trumpet of God's glory." Because what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly how to position this trumpet for the performance heaven has been waiting to hear. Your body isn't just demanding recognition, it's demanding activation. And the activation sequence begins with understanding the sacred frequency your flesh was designed to broadcast. You know what terrifies the enemy most about seniors like you? It's not your grey hair or your slower gait. It's that you've lived long enough to see through his lies. You've survived enough storms to know the difference between his whispers and God's thunder. And right now, chosen one, you're standing at the threshold of something that will make hell itself tremble. Look at your hands right now. Really look at them. See those lines, those age spots, those places where the skin has grown thin. The world sees weakness. Heaven sees victory scars. Every mark tells a story of battles fought and won. Every crease maps a journey of faith that refused to break. But here's what breaks my heart about your generation. Somewhere along the way, you started believing that your cracks meant you were finished. That the slow leaks in your energy, your finances, your hope meant you were running empty. That Medicare and Social Security were the ceiling of God's provision for your golden years. That's the devil's greatest lie. David knew something about cracked vessels when he penned Psalm 23:5. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Notice, he didn't say, my cup is half full or my cup is enough. He said, overflows. Not despite the enemies surrounding him, but in their very presence. You think those financial pressures bearing down on you are proof that God forgot your address. You think that loneliness echoing through empty rooms means heaven moved on without you. You think that body that doesn't move like it used to is evidence that your useful days are done. No, dear one. You're not a cup that's cracking from wear. You're a vessel that's been prepared through decades of testing to handle overflow. Think about this. Why would the enemy work so hard to convince you that your best years are behind you? Why would he whisper that relevance belongs to the young, that impact requires energy you no longer possess, that God's blessings flow toward those with smoother skin and stronger backs? Because he knows something about your 70s, your 80s, your 90s that you're just beginning to remember. He knows that when a saint who's walked with God for decades finally steps into divine overflow, the very atmosphere shifts. He knows that your prayers carry weight that comes only from surviving what should have destroyed you. He knows that your words of blessing or cursing can alter destinies because they flow from a well that's been dug deep through years of faithfulness. Here's the shocking truth that will revolutionize how you see every ache, every limitation, every moment you felt forgotten. What leaks from your cracks is not loss, it is oil. And heaven is pouring until you overflow. That wisdom seeping from your lips when you think no one's listening. That's not rambling, that's revelation. Those tears that fall when you pray for your grandchildren, that's not weakness, that's intercession. So powerful, it moves mountains. That slower pace that forces you to notice what others rush past, that's not decline, that's divine, positioning to catch miracles in motion. But the overflow isn't just spiritual, chosen one. It's financial, it's relational, it's physical restoration that defies every medical report. It's opportunities flowing toward you that make no earthly sense. It's favor that confuses people half your age who think they know how the world works. God is about to embarrass every voice that counted you out, every family member who dismissed your dreams, every doctor who handed you an expiration date, every financial advisor who suggested you manage expectations in your final years. Manage expectations. You serve the God who multiplied loaves and fishes, who turned water into wine, who raised the dead after 3 days, who promised in Joel 2:25 to restore the years the locusts have eaten. The overflow that's coming isn't compensation for your pain, it's multiplication of your faithfulness. Every tithe you gave when you couldn't afford it, every prayer you whispered when hope seemed dead, every act of kindness you showed when your own heart was breaking. Heaven has been compounding the interest on your spiritual investments, and the payout is about to shatter every limitation you've accepted. Here's your moment of decision. You can stay in the old story where your age defines your limits, where your past determines your future. where your current circumstances dictate your destiny. Or you can step into the overflow that's been building pressure behind the dam of your faithfulness for decades. Type 888, heaven's number of new beginnings, and claim your overflow, not as a desperate plea, but as a declaration of war against every lie that said your time was up. This is your moment to prove that God's math doesn't follow earthly calculations, that His economy operates on eternal principles where the last become first and the humble are exalted. The cup isn't just half full anymore, chosen one. It's about to overflow, and what spills out will water the dreams of generations yet to come. Chosen one, we've journeyed together through revelation after revelation, but now we arrive at the most sacred truth of all. Your body isn't just demanding renewal. Your flesh isn't simply crying out for divine alignment. What your physical temple has been screaming for all these years is recognition of what it truly carries. You are a living scroll, written by the finger of God Himself. In 2 Corinthians 3:3, the Apostle Paul declares with thunderous authority, "You show that you are a letter from Christ, written not with ink but with the Spirit of the living God, not on tablets of stone but on tablets of human hearts." But let me tell you something that will shatter every limitation you've ever placed on yourself. This isn't just poetry. This isn't metaphor. Your body is literally carrying divine text that heaven reads and earth witnesses. Think about this. When ancient scribes wrote sacred scrolls, they didn't use ordinary parchment. They selected the finest materials, prepared them with meticulous care, and inscribed them with precision that would last for millennia. Your flesh, chosen one, has been prepared by the master scribe. Every line on your face, every silver strand in your hair, every scar that tells a story of survival, these aren't signs of deterioration, they're divine inscriptions. This is why you survived that heart attack at 68 when doctors said you wouldn't make it through the night. This is why you're still here when friends half your age have already gone home to glory. This is why your body refused to quit when your mind wanted to surrender. The scroll wasn't finished being written. But here's what will devastate every lie the enemy ever whispered about your worth. Your body has been carrying a prophecy no one else could read, until now. For decades, you've walked through this world feeling like a book written in a foreign language. People looked at you, but couldn't comprehend what they were seeing. Your own family couldn't decipher the sacred text written across your life. Even you questioned whether the words inscribed in your very DNA had any meaning at all. But God never writes anything without purpose. Every chapter of suffering, every verse of victory, every stanza of silence, when heaven seemed deaf to your cries, it was all being recorded by the divine pen. Your body wasn't just enduring experiences, it was being authored by the Alpha and Omega, the author and finisher of your faith. This is why you survived the bankruptcy that should have destroyed you. This is why you're here after burying a spouse who was your whole world. This is why your hands still shake with holy fire when you pray, even when your voice trembles with age. The prophecy wasn't complete. Listen to me carefully, dear one. Right now, in this very moment, heaven is reading your scroll. Angels are leaning over the battlements of glory, studying the sacred text written across your life story. They're seeing chapters of faith that moved mountains you never knew existed. They're reading verses of love that healed hearts you never knew were broken. They're witnessing stanzas of endurance that broke generational curses you never knew were holding your family captive. Your body has been demanding recognition because it knows what it carries. Every ache that keeps you awake at night is the sacred text adjusting to new revelations being written. Every moment of restlessness is your flesh recognizing that fresh ink is still flowing from heaven's pen across the parchment of your existence. But here's the climax that will transform everything you thought you knew about your purpose. You are God's living scroll, read by heaven, witnessed by men. This is why strangers stop you in grocery stores and pour out their hearts to you without explanation. This is why children gravitate toward you with inexplicable trust. This is why broken people find themselves confessing their deepest secrets in your presence. They're not just seeing an elderly person, they're reading the scroll of God's faithfulness written in living flesh. The prophecy inscribed in your very bones speaks of restoration in places where hope died. It declares healing in bloodlines where sickness reigned for generations. It proclaims breakthrough in families where limitation was the only inheritance passed down from father to son, mother to daughter. Your body isn't demanding rest, chosen one. It's demanding revelation. It's crying out for the world to finally read what God has been writing through your life for 7, 8, 9 decades. Every gray hair is a silver letter in heaven's alphabet. Every wrinkle is a sacred sentence declaring God's faithfulness through seasons of testing. This is why you survived when others didn't make it. This is why you're here listening to these words while your heart pounds with holy recognition. The scroll is finally being read aloud, and your spirit knows its own story. The enemy tried to erase the text through trauma, but divine ink cannot be deleted. He attempted to tear the parchment through betrayal, but what God has written, no man can destroy. He worked overtime to convince you the scroll was blank, meaningless, forgotten in some dusty corner of heaven's library. But prophetic scrolls don't deteriorate with age. They increase in value. They become more precious. They carry greater authority. And right now, your scroll is being presented in the throne room of the Almighty as evidence that His word never returns void. If this word is penetrating the deepest chambers of your heart, if you recognize the sacred text being read over your life right now, comment, "I am God's scroll." Don't just type it, declare it. Seal this prophetic word with your testimony, because when you acknowledge what you carry, heaven responds with power that transforms not just you, but everyone whose life intersects with your story. The scroll is complete, chosen one, but the reading has just begun. Beloved chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred journey together, I need you to carry 3 eternal truths with you as you step back into your world, forever changed by what heaven has revealed today. First, remember this. Your body is not your enemy, it is your messenger. Every ache, every restless night, every moment of unexplained stirring is divine communication. You are fearfully and wonderfully made, a living scroll authored by God Himself, carrying prophecies that only eternity can fully decode. Second, the demands your body is making aren't for worldly comfort or temporary relief. Your flesh is crying out for divine alignment, for the renewal that comes only when spirit and body unite in perfect harmony with your Creator's original design. Like Daniel, who thrived on heaven's provision, you too are called to flourish in ways that will astonish those who witness God's faithfulness in your life. Third, you are a temple sacred architecture, housing the very presence of the Most High. Every gray hair is a crown of wisdom, every line on your face a testimony of endurance, every scar a mark of victory over forces that tried but failed to destroy what God has preserved for His glory. But hear me clearly, you are not walking this path alone. The same God who breathed life into your lungs at birth is still breathing purpose into your days at 70, 80, 90 years and beyond. He hasn't brought you this far to abandon you now. Romans 8:28 remains as true today as when Paul first penned those words. All things work together for good for those who love God, who are called according to His purpose. And beyond God's constant presence, you have this community, thousands of fellow believers who understand your journey because they're walking it too. We see you, we pray for you. We stand with you in faith, believing that your greatest chapters are not behind you but ahead of you. Let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. Now that you know what your body has been demanding, now that you understand the sacred text written in your very DNA, what will you do with this revelation? Will you continue to live as though you're merely aging flesh counting down to glory, or will you rise as the living scroll God created you to be? Before you go, I want to place my hand on your shoulder through these words and pray over your life with the authority that comes from walking with God through my own seasons of questioning and discovery. Heavenly Father, Creator of all that is seen and unseen, I lift up every precious soul who has journeyed with us today. Lord, you see them, not just their tired bodies or their worried minds, but the sacred scroll you've been writing through their lives for decades. You see the prophecies inscribed in their very bones, the testimonies carved into their hearts through seasons of fire and seasons of rain. Father, I pray that you would breathe fresh life into their weary bodies right now. Where there is pain, bring healing. Where there is confusion, bring clarity. Where there is loneliness, flood them with the knowledge of your abiding presence. Let them feel your hand upon their lives, your smile upon their faces, your delight in who they've become through every trial and triumph. Open their eyes to see themselves as you see them, not as the world measures worth, but as heaven declares value. Let them understand that every day they draw breath is evidence that their story isn't finished, their purpose isn't expired, their impact isn't diminished. Surround them with divine appointments and holy connections. Send them exactly the people they need to encourage their journey. Provide for their every need, physical, emotional, financial, and spiritual. Let your favor follow them like a mighty river, blessing not just them but everyone their lives touch. Most of all, Father, let them never doubt again that they are chosen, beloved, and eternally significant in your kingdom. In Jesus' mighty name, I seal this prayer with faith, hope, and unshakable love. Amen. Now, dear friend, don't let this moment end with just listening. Share what God spoke to your heart in the comments below. Ask for prayer if you need it. Tell us how this message has shifted something in your spirit. And please, share this video with someone who needs to hear that their body isn't betraying them, it's summoning them back to divine purpose. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell. Join this growing family of believers who refuse to accept that their best days are behind them. We're building something beautiful here, a community where faith grows stronger, hope burns brighter, and purpose becomes clearer with every passing year. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart to receive what heaven wanted to pour into you today. You are seen, you are loved, and you are never, ever alone. Until we meet again, walk in the confidence of who you are, God's living scroll, read by heaven, witnessed by earth, and loved beyond measure. Go in peace. Go in power. Go in the unshakable knowledge that your body's demands are actually heaven's invitations to step into the fullness of who you were always meant to be.